Welcome to today's AVS CJCC admin webinar. To start with, I'm going to show where you log in, and we are here at communitytech.net, and here is the customer login. Hello, thanks for joining me today. My name is Liz, and this is the AVS admin webinar. To start with, we log in here from the communitytech.net webpage. Log in here with customer login. We log into our database. And here we are. This is what AVS looks like straight out of the box. These are quick link buttons that take you to most of the major functions that you will be performing, you and your users. Let's talk briefly about form structure. And the best way to do that is to look at the back end of our list of forms. Client profile, excuse me. Client profile is the face level, it's the top level face sheet form. Anybody that you want to track, any client that you want to provide services to or keep tabs on needs to have their own client profile. And so the client profile is called a Tier 1 form. And inside of that Tier 1 are these Tier 2 forms. You see how they're indented? That's how you know. Those are all forms under the client profile form. So in order to have access to these templates to create records for someone, they must first have a client profile record. So someone would have a single client profile record, and that is what creates their document folder. And inside of their document folder, they might have multiple program enrollments and many services and case notes. And if you operate a shelter, they probably have lots of bed enrollments too. There's a whole list of forms here that you may never use all of these forms. As administrators, you can deactivate any of these forms that you don't use if you find that it's more convenient to have a shorter list. Okay, every client goes into the same bucket of records. They all go into the same pool of records, whether they are a victim or an abuser or a parent or child, husband or wife, or if they're just other relatives who share a roof. Everybody goes into the same pool of records, and you link them together on the front end with the household form right here. So when someone comes in for services for the first time, you don't necessarily need an intake record for them. Basically, intake form and household form do only one thing, and that is they link people with each other inside your database. The intake form is slowly being sunsetted. We are unlinking it from funding reports because it's a little bit difficult to report on the data that it collects. So we recommend people use the household form instead and adapt it to your purposes so that it can be used in instances where people do share a roof and where they don't share a roof but they're still associated with each other. Anything where you want to link people together, use the household form. Okay. One of the most common searches that you're going to do is the client profile search. You can get there from here. You can get there from here. Both of these links take you to the same place, which is the pool of client profile records. If you want to find a client, this is where you look. And it's always a good idea to clear your search history so that you get rid of the last search that might still be active when you want to make a new search. You can browse all to clear your search history, or you can click this button here. They both do the same thing, which is clear out the old search. And here in the client profile, you can narrow down your search by adding fields to search by. There are fields from the form, the client profile form. There are fields from other forms. These are all tier 2s that live inside the client profile, and these are fields on those forms that you can currently search by. As an administrator, you can determine which fields show up in this list. If you want to search by something that's not here, you can add it, and I will show you how to do form edits in a moment. Okay, so say that we wanted to find somebody we want to find everybody who has residential program enrollments. And as soon as we put in that search field and populate it, it comes back with instant results. These are all of the clients in my database who have program enrollments. And when you see this little arrow here, click it, and it expands to show those records. So what we're looking at here is the client profile. This is the tier 1 record. If I expand the down arrow, here is the tier 2 record that meets the search requirement. So you can do multiple, combination searches actually. So we could search by everybody named Joe who has a residential record. Oh, there aren't any. Let's see, maybe if we do everybody with the last name Smith who has residential records, we see there are 4. And I can use this expand all to show me all those records at once. And really, I'm not clicking into the records. What we see here is quick view data. This is also customizable by administrators. Quick view data are the highlights. They're the fields that you choose to show you the most crucial data off the record so that you don't have to click into that record to see, oh, they enrolled in a residential program on January 27th of this year. You can just have Quick View show you the data that you want to access quickly so that you can grab that data and move on. Okay. Let's see, we have searched the client profile and seen how search fields work here. Let's search households. Household search is similar in many ways and different in a few. First of all, we want to always clear our search history to get rid of the previous search. Okay, now that we've done that, I want to search for household records that the Smiths belong to. And here's everybody who belongs to a household record with a Smith in it. And again, this little goodie right here, expand all, collapse all, is really handy. When you have a list and you want to see what some of those sub-level records are, you can expand all to see all of them at once. Okay, so we've covered client profile searches, we've covered household searches. Let's search supporters. Supporters are people who help your organization. Either they're staff or volunteers, they're interns, board members, donors, or something else. They're not clients that you provide services to, they're the people who work in your org. Here's another search that we need to be sure we clear out the old search. And we're here in the supporter pool of records, and we see there are people who are combinations of different types of supporters, as well as people who are just one type of supporter. You can sort all of the records by any of these gray arrows that you see at the top of the columns, or you could just have a search on type of supporter. If we select staff, we're seeing only people who are marked as staff. The reason this is important is that there are many staff drop-down option lists throughout your AVS site. Many forms have a staff drop-down list in them. And when you migrate data from Alice, everybody who was ever a supporter in your organization is going to show up in those staff lists. So you're going to want to edit that list to only see the people who are actual viable options currently. If I wanted to remove someone from a staff list, I would come here to the supporter search, search by that type of supporter if I know what it is, or I could search by name. And I'm going to use Renee Jones as my example. I'm going to click into her record, and I'm just going to deactivate her so that she is no longer on staff lists. And you do that here at the bottom of the supporter record. You make her employee status inactive and save the record. And if we were to go to her supporter document folder, we would see that there are additional records for her. These are templates to create records for training logs, timesheets, any activities that they participated in or were somehow connected to contact notes and specific trainings. And that is how you manage your staff drop-down lists. Okay, let's talk about some of these other drop-down lists. I'm going to show you a form that has several on it. We go into Jim's program enrollment record. The program enrollment form has a lot of option fields on it. Some of them are going to be directly editable. Others you will have to go to the category form to edit. So let's take a look at a couple of these fields. Funder is one. It's a customizable list. You can put your own options in it. Same with service site, program, let's see, referred by, there's that staff drop-down list that I was talking about. So there's all kinds of option lists, and when those option lists appear on more than one form, you control those options here. If it's like this program field, it only appears on this form. We can edit it here. Let's look at a form edit. From the front page, you navigate to edit forms this way. You click on Administrator tab. You go to Standard Forms, and you find the form you want to edit. And this is where I was showing you the form structure. Most of the forms you're going to touch are going to be client profile or a tier 2 under the client profile. And let's say that we want to edit the options in a drop-down on the program enrollment. So we hover over Actions and click Edit. When the wheel finishes turning, it will refresh the page. And now our form is ready to edit. Excuse me. Everywhere you see one of these green gears, that is a properties icon. And you'll notice that there are properties icons everywhere in these forms. They have them at the form level. This icon would set properties for the entire form. They have them at the section level. This properties gear controls the properties for this entire enrollment section, enrollment details section. And then every field inside of this enrollment details section also has a properties setting. So there's just crazy, all kinds of properties settings. For option fields, if you click the property gear and you see that there's a list of options here, this is one that you can edit here inside the field. Let's see here, what are we going to do? We're going to take kids group out, and we're going to add in adults group. And if I had a long list of things that I wanted to add, I could use this bulk entry button, which turns that option list into a field where you just type in categories and hit return, and you keep typing categories in until you're done. Hit return after each one, and then when you're all done, save your options, and there they are. And you can reorder these options. Now let's get our properties back. You can pick up an option and move it. You can reorder this list. If you want to add things one at a time, you can use this plus button, or again, you can go to bulk entry to edit the list. You can also allow other, or you can deselect allow other. If allow other is selected, other would be a choice at the bottom of the option list, and when checked, a field would appear where you could type in a value that is not in this list. Okay, so when you're done editing your option list, you click Apply and publish the form so that those changes go live. And it's redrawing the page now. Okay, publish is successful. If we go back to my apricot, I can use the search I had before. View a program enrollment. And there are the new edits that I made to the field. Okay, let's go back, and we'll go back onto the Administrator tab. We'll go back to Form Edits. We'll go back into the Program Enrollment form and edit it again. And we'll look at a field that you can't edit from here. This is a field that has to be edited from the category form. And we're going to see what it looks like when we click into the properties gear. Instead of having a list of options that you could edit right here, you'll get this. And this tells you the category form is where I have to edit the changes, or the options, if I want to make changes to the options for this service site field. So let's go look at that. Here in my Apricot, you go to the category form, and here is the previous search. It just happens to coincide with the example that I'm giving, so I'm going to leave it there. But if I decided that I wanted to edit a different drop-down menu, these are all drop-down menus. There's that funder field that we talked about briefly. Service site, volunteer service, court, referral, training, service. All of these are fields that live on several forms, and so it makes sense to adjust the options in one place instead of on every form. And so you come here to the category form to do that. I want to add service sites, so I'm going to click in here. I see that actually that was not what I wanted to do, my mistake. I want to add a service site. So let's click New Category. Designate that this is a service site category, and we'll call this service site all right, and that's all there is to that. Click Save. And that record is saved. So now if I go to service site search, I see that we have an additional one here. Okay, so we have touched on editing drop-downs inside of the form. We've touched on editing drop-downs using the category form. Let's talk about where to find data that migrated from Alice. Here in our landing page, your clients live here. So we'll clear our search history, and there's all of our clients. So you find your clients here, and every one of these is a client. And actually, more specifically, every one of these is a client document folder. I go back to search. I can click into somebody else's client document folder. And these are where their Alice activities will be, case notes, you name it, all kinds of stuff, all of your residential programs, your hotline calls, your outreach records, they'll all be here in the program enrollment, as well as Alice IDs. If you're looking for Alice ID, there's a field on the client profile for it, or it may have been deactivated, I'm not sure. But know that the Alice ID does not live on the face sheet. What we found was that when we started migrating Alice data, many people had more than one Alice ID associated with them. So it just made sense to put it on a Tier 2 form, and that way we didn't lose anybody's Alice IDs. They're all there, they're just on a sub-level form. Okay. Alice ID is, as we said, here on the program enrollment, and AVS also has its own numbering system here. This is the last section of every record, of every form. You will almost always see this at the bottom of every record. And this contains the unique record ID for this record. Not only does every client get their own unique ID, every record gets its own unique ID. You will also see here in the system fields who created the record, who modified it and when it was last modified. If you want to view the history of a record, perhaps it's been updated a few times, you can do that here with View History. That will show you every time that someone has hit save, and if you click, it will put a halo around the fields where data changed. So if you just wanted to view what it used to say, you can view the record history. If you find that you want to restore what the record used to say, the data that it used to have in it, you can pick one of these histories and use Restore to get that old data back. If a record has been touched 100 times, it's going to have that many history stages, and you can click into any of them and restore. Okay, or you can return to current, and that will bring you back to the current view of the record. Okay, let's talk about form edits some more. Form edits are always done in Administrator tab, and pre-built forms live here. We also have templates. If you wanted to use a template to create an additional form, you can do that. First, let's talk about form edits. So we'll go here to Standard Forms. Let's do a few quick, simple operations. I'm going to create a Tier 1 from scratch. So basically what I'm doing is creating a new form. I'm going to name it. I can give a description of the form if I like. I can allow it to be copied. And I can turn on form logic if it's going to be a form that addresses multiple groups of data collection, like the program enrollment, where you can set it to behave one way for hotline calls and a different way for residential calls. Okay, I'm going to apply the new name, and I'm going to drag in a field. And I'm not going to go into a lot of trouble to create a complete form. I just want to show you what it looks like to add a field. You grab one from this Field Choices panel and pick it up with your mouse and drag it into the section. And when you see the section light up green, you can let go of the field. And now it lives on the form. We'll let it catch up here. And again, these are the gear properties I was telling you about earlier. This is the form level gear properties. This is where we named the form. This is the section level property gear for the main section. Every section will have this. If I click into that, I can set this section default to collapsed or hidden. You'd use hidden if you were using form logic and you wanted that section to only be visible if a choice is made in another field somewhere. We're not going to build form logic today because it takes a lot of time that we don't have for this presentation, but it's a fun thing to do with your forms. Okay, let's click Apply, and there is the expanded view, there is the collapsed view. I believe I set this default to collapsed. I'm going to change that back to expanded. Okay, so I've added a field. You will have a checklist here that tells you the things that you are required to put on this form in order to make it go live. In order to have a form that you can publish, and use, we've got to have a duplicate check field, a searchable field, a visible field that is both quick view and required. So let's add one or two other fields here. I'm going to drag in a name field and a social security number field. And I'm going to set those properties, these properties that are required here, those are at field level properties. Duplicate check and required, quick view, and searchable. I could also make these fields locked or hidden. You can also set it to clear on copy, which means that if this form has been set to allow copies, then when a copy is made, this field would be set to clear out the data that was previously entered. Okay, so there's the duplicate check icon, that little double apricot icon, and there is the required icon, the asterisk. Those two things next to a name field, they tell you that those are that name field, or the name of that field tells you that that field is a duplicate check field and a required field. So I want to publish this form so that it goes live. And if I go back to my apricot, there it is in my list of forms. Okay, so if we wanted to create a record using this form, there we go. Okay, and in doing so, I have created a new document folder because that was a Tier 1 form that I created. Every Tier 1 form makes a document folder. It's named after the naming convention for our forms is that it is named according to the topmost required field. And so if I were to edit this form again, and move name to the topmost and require it. I'm going to give it a duplicate check as well. Click apply and publish the form. Publish successful. Let's go look at that form now. View folder. Well, that demonstration didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to. Well, anyway, let's move on. That is how you build a form. So let's see, in building that form, we covered adding a field, and we also covered making fields required, quick view, and searchable. Again, quick view is phooey. Let me find somebody with quick view data. Okay. This is quick view data. And you turn that on and off in the field properties on the form. Okay. Let's go back and cover how you delete a field. We go back to Forms. Let's go back to the form we just created and we'll edit it. And I'm going to delete the address field. Now technically you can't quote unquote delete. After the form has been published, all you can do is deactivate. And you'll see that the field goes away. So if I publish the form now, it would go live and that address field would no longer be there. If I changed my mind and decided at some point that I wanted that deactivated field back, you can find your deactivated fields by selecting this box. And there it is. And it tells you right here, drag and click Save to activate. What it means is, just like you grab the field to drag it onto the form, you grab the field and drag it up into the field, into the section amongst the fields and drop it where you see green, and now it's reactivated. It doesn't go live until you publish it. But that's how you delete, quote unquote, deactivate or reactivate a field. So if you want to deactivate a form, that's right here. So you would edit the form that you want to deactivate, and you would find Deactivate Form in the Form Actions panel, and click Deactivate, and confirm. And now we see that that form is gone. But it's not really gone. It's just deactivated. So if we were to show inactive forms, there it is again. To reactivate it, we just go back into Edit and reactivate and confirm and publish. Okay, that is how you add, deactivate a field. That's how you create a form and how you deactivate a form, and also how you reactivate fields and forms. Okay, occasionally you are going to run across, especially on the program enrollment, you are going to run across fields that are required, but they are not editable. Let's see here. If we were to go into the services record, that's a good one. Service category. No, I take that back. That is an editable field. Let me keep looking. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go straight into the form. We'll go into Edit Program Enrollment, and I will show you from that side. I think that's going to be easier to demonstrate. Okay, editing the program enrollment form. This is the form that has a lot of HMIS data points in it, and those are all locked down. They're restricted to maintain HMIS data collection compliance. And they generally look like this. They have the gray properties, and if you try to edit them, it will tell you that you cannot. It will tell you that it requires a CTK staff person. It'll say restricted, and it'll say up here in green, certain properties can only be changed by a CTK staff member. That's because this is an HMIS field. If you find that you need to edit these fields and HMIS compliance isn't a big concern for your organization, let us know and we can remove those restrictions. We can lift those restrictions site-wide. That brings me to the Help Center and the Customer Care tab. These links are at the top center of your page no matter where you are in your site. Help Center is our knowledge base, and it is chock full of all kinds of good information. It's broken down by category, including AVS, and inside of AVS is the CJCC category for you CJCC users out there, including a manual, webinars, new webinar registration, and Q&As. I'm sorry, not new webinar registration. This is a recorded webinar that has already taken place. There will be others added here over the next week. Okay, in addition to the CJCC category, there are other categories here with additional webinars and videos and manuals and all kinds of little info nuggets that more than likely will answer your questions. As administrators, you might also want to check out this new administrator orientation. It's got a lot of good details in it for administrators. There are also getting started with Apricot is a good way to understand the navigation and the basics. Building reports, if you find that one of your tasks is reporting, you'll want to check this out. A whole lot of really good information here in reports. And here's the form design category as well. Lots of good info there. So explore this. This is a great library. We've got a really fantastic documentation team. They are adding material to this daily. So check back on a regular basis, and there should always be new information popping up here. In addition, we are beta testing live chat support during regular business hours. So that option is available for you from generally 9 to 5 Central Time. Okay, let's X out of the Help Center. And here is the Customer Care tab. This sends an email to the Tech Support Department. Use this if you can't find an answer in the Help Center and it's not during chat hours. Go ahead and use the Customer Care link, send that email and that question, and we'll answer you by email as soon as we get the question, within normal business hours, of course. Okay, what else do we need to talk about? We need to talk about turning on batch creation so that you can batch create records. Let's see here. In Administrator tab, let's say that we want to batch create bed enrollment records. We're going to edit the bed enrollment form. And here at the form level, we're going to adjust the properties to allow batch record creation. And click Apply. Publish the form. And now if I go back to my Apricot, click into the client profile pool of records, I see that I can create batch records for bed enrollments. You can allow batch records for most forms. Administrators will be the ones to turn this on, and you turn it on in the form properties gear at the top of the page. All right, Let's talk about managing users real quick. From the landing page, this little goodie here is the name of your site, and this is the username that you're logged in as. And I can't just highlight the name apparently. And this is the permissions group that the user is logged in with. As an administrator, you are the one who controls your users' access to your database. So let's go into Administrator tab and go to User Group Profiles here under Access Control. Users and groups are two different things. You access them both in the same place though, here at User Group Profiles. If I want to add or delete or otherwise manage users, I want to be in the User Profile window. If I want to manage groups, then I want to be in the Group Profiles window. We're going to go to User Profiles first, and we're going to create a new user. And you do that here. Click New User. And call test user at example.net. And test user is a standard user. You can make test user an administrator and then they have the power to go anywhere and do anything. Or you might want to have more control over what your standard user or what test user does. So you would just make them a standard user. You can upload a photograph of them if you like, and that would show up here in this little icon window. All right, so we're going to save the record. And we have successfully made test user an official user in this site. We've given them a login and a password. Let's continue working in this record because right now test user doesn't have access to anything. All we've done is give them a login. But if I were to go to My Apricot and put on test user's profile, I would see that I don't have access to anything. That might not be the right test user. Yep, apparently they're the same. So yeah, test user does not have any permissions yet, so test user can't do much. So you want to be sure that when you add a user, you also give them permissions. So let's go back to test user and give them permissions. In Administrator tab, we go back to Access Control and we click User Group Profiles. And here's test user. We have created a user profile for test user. Let's give test user a group. Groups are the permissions. Groups are the access. So let's edit test user's record. And we're going to assign permission sets here. Click Add. And these are permissions groups. Test user is a standard user, so I'm just going to give them basic permissions. And when you click on it, you see that it's been added. So I'm done with that. I can X out of the search window, and here is the basic permissions group. I'm going to save that record. Now if I want to see what those permissions are, I can just click into that basic permission set. Here's everybody who has been assigned that basic permission set. and here's what they can do. These are their permissions. This is everything, including the form that we created earlier. This is all the forms. Here's all the reports. Here's all the bulletins. Bulletins are the front page. That's your landing page right up here. AVS bulletins. This is where bulletins live. So if they can't even see this page, you know that you need to go in and give them permissions to view bulletins. And then lastly, shared files. You can also control their access to shared files. Okay, so when you want to give someone access or take access away, you pull up the appropriate category of access. Say I want to limit someone's forms access, and I want to take away their access to edit or let's see, I'm going to take away their access to create or edit sexual assault tracking records. They can only search and view. So that's how you do that, is you just check those on and off to make them available. You could also give users access to design forms or archive records. You can also control record level access. You can determine that everybody in Basic Group A can only see their own records, and everybody in Basic Group B can only see their own records, and Group A people cannot see Group B people's records, and vice versa. That's group level, record level access. You can also control access at the user level. You could determine that users can only see records they themselves created, and they can't see records that anyone else has created. So that is record level access and group record level access. If you find that you're having trouble controlling someone's access, it's probably coming down to group or record level access. By all means, reach out for help, and we can help get you straightened out if you get confused with your user management. Okay, let's talk quickly about funding reports, and those all live here. So from the landing page, you can run reports clicking here. This takes you to the full list of reports, and everywhere you see a drop arrow, that means there's additional data. We have several funding reports. We have HUD, APR, ESG CAPER, OVW, SASP, VAWA, VOCA. I believe we have a FIPSA. There are several state reports. And then these are the reports that we brought over from ALICE. These are ALICE reports here at the bottom of the list. So if you're familiar with ALICE reports, these are probably going to feel like home to you. Okay. Let's see. To run a report, let's run a report. A lot of these reports are going to have lock icons next to them. That means they're restricted. So you can run them, but you won't be able to edit them, even as an administrator, because they're locked. Edit will show up in the list, but if you try, you're going to get this message. So reach out to us and let us know, and we can lift that restriction. Or what you can do is you can copy this report, and that will make an exact copy of the report that is unrestricted. That way you would always have the original pristine version there that has not been adulterated in any way, and you can always go back and recopy it if you're you made a copy and you were editing it and you broke it. Just go make another copy and start over. Okay, let's see. If I wanted to copy this report, I'm going to make a copy of it in AVS reports. This is the adult shelter admission and departure report. Name, create. And so it's copied this report now, and we are in the copy, and we can edit it completely. Okay, let's go back to the My Apricot side and look at running a report and editing some global values. Let's just grab one here. If you want to run a report from My Apricot, you click My Reports, you find the name of the report, hover over Actions, and click Run. You also have the option to print or export or edit. We're going to click Run. And you're going to see these fields up here at the top of the report. These are here on most reports that are pre-built. These are called global values, and what they do is they allow you to run this report for different periods of time without editing it. So you could have your users, you could give your users access to this report, and they can run it for any time span they want. And this probably won't return results. I don't think that this demo is that old. Yeah. But you could have your users run this report with different values, and that way they don't have to have editing access to the report in order to run it for different quarters or different time periods or what have you. You can put in a global value in anything. If we wanted to add a global value for, say, funder, you want to run this report, but you only want to run it for funders. I'm going to just lift the restriction here. Normally what you would do if you want to add a field is you would copy the report. I've lifted the restriction. We're just going to pretend that we made a copy. What we have here is an editable version of this ESG caper section 4. And I want to add a funder global value. So I'm going to click Add and name it. And I'm going to tell AVS what type of data this field is going to hold. In this case, it's going to hold text only. It's not going to have any numbers. Actually, text and numbers could exist in a text field. If you had numbers, it would only allow numbers and not text. However, text will allow text and numbers. I hope that was clear. Sorry. Okay. Funder is the name of my new global value property field. It's a text field. I'm going to click Apply and publish the report. And you publish right here in the Report Actions menu. And when it has successfully published, it will give you the option to run it. And here we are. I'm going to change these dates to a quarterly report for ESG funding. And I doubt that I've created any records in this demo site for the ESG funder, so nothing's showing up, but we would build a filter to use this value, and we would say, I'm looking for the funder field. Well, it's not here. I'm going to use program instead and type in to make this a global filter, which is to say if I want to incorporate these values into my filter, I have to use the global checkbox, and I want to use contains so that if the data is saved in the record slightly differently than the way I type it in up here, it'll still find it because I'm using contains instead of equals. Equals is a lot more strict. So contains, and if I had changed that to say, actually let's go back here and edit that and call it program instead. And now my example makes sense. Okay, publish that report. And I'm just making that name change go live here. Okay, go back to the front end and refresh. And here we are. Now we have a program global value. And I could say, I'm just going to type in part of a program name. And I'm going to add a filter. Program contains my global value. And that did not work properly. Let's try that again. Select global, program, and now it's looking for global fields that it can call on. Because program is a text type data field on the form, it is only giving us global fields that are text value fields. So I have here program equals global value program. I want to change that equals to contains because it's a more flexible way. Contains is more, it's not as strict. It will give you wider search options. Click apply. And it's not finding any records because I don't meet all of these criteria, but mainly this is to demonstrate how you use global values. You can see here global values are also built in here, and this is not an editable filter. It doesn't have that pencil icon like this one does. This is an editable filter. To edit these filters, you would have to go in as an administrator on the back side and edit the report to change these filters. But because they use global value dates, I don't have to go into the back side. I can just change the dates here. And you'll see now they've changed. And that's how global values work. You build them in on the back end, you create them here, you build a filter for them here, and then your users can run the report for different values because you've given them these global value fields. Pretty cool. Oh look, it's pulling shelter activities. Yay. Okay, so that's basically global values. How to print. Let's look at print mode for this report. These are our print options here in the panel. We can have it show filters, forms, global values, or we could have a really nice clean report that doesn't show that stuff. We could have it give a page break after each section. If you've got a multi-section report and you want each section to be its own page, you can do that. If you want it to show all of the rows of data that it's using to pull these results, you click expand all data. You can also determine the font size. And then you would select print. Another option that you can do from having run the report is you can export it. You could export these records. And I believe it creates an Excel worksheet, yes, right here. And you can then wrangle that data in Excel, do whatever you like with that. Alrighty, what else is there? I believe that is everything. If there is a question that I have not touched on here today, please do use the Customer Care tab, email us your question, and we will be happy to answer it. Thanks again for attending, and happy apricotting. Bye-bye.